Hey everybody, coming at you with the Tuesday evening edition of Weather for Weather Geeks. It's the Mahoning and Shenango Valley's most in-depth, detailed, geeky weather video. We had a dry day today, a hot day today. We got into the upper 80s this afternoon. Rain was not in the news today, but precipitation and rain has been in the news a lot lately, and including today. NOAA today came out with their numbers for the last 12 months, showing the wettest 12-month period on record in over a dozen states across the U.S., parts of the Plain states over into Arkansas, and then the Ohio River Valley, a large chunk of the Northeast, the Mid-Atlantic states as well. And yeah, no surprise, Ohio and Pennsylvania are on this list. So July 2018 to June 2019, the wettest 12-month stretch on record dating back to 1895. So we are not alone in this. It has been excessively wet in a lot of places for quite some time now, and I just showed you the states that had the wettest 12-month period. There were more states that came close. This is highlighted are the states that had the second wettest 12-month period. Texas, Tennessee, Illinois, Iowa, Michigan, and New Hampshire all had the second wettest 12-month period. So when you count all the first place finishes and second place finishes, something like, let's see, I think it's like 26 states, about half the U.S., had either the wettest or the second wettest 12-month period on record. All right, in case you missed this a couple weeks ago, we did a weather special called New Norm, ? We did a half an hour on this on TV 2 weeks ago this coming Thursday. In case you missed that or want to watch it again, it's still online. If you go over to wfmj.com/weather, you can watch that special in its entirety online. Why so much rain? We talked about that at length in that special, and you know, there's some natural cycles, natural things going on here, such as El Nino, and you can point to a few other things as well. But climate change is likely supercharging those naturally occurring things and making it much easier for the atmosphere to wring out a lot of rain in a lot of places. Now, not everywhere. So just because it's been rainy around here doesn't mean it's been rainy everywhere in the U.S. or everywhere in the world. But we're seeing an increase in precipitation in latitudes that are close to the jet stream. In areas that tend to be dry, far removed from the jet stream, kind of have a dry climate anyway, there's a lot of evidence that those climates are growing drier, while the more temperate, humid, mid-latitude climates that typically see, you know, a decent amount of rain, those locations tend to be getting a lot wetter in recent years and in recent decades as well. Warmer air can hold more water can be squeezed out. And so while we can't blame every single heavy rain event or every single storm or every single blizzard directly on the changing climate, can't necessarily draw a straight line, we can say that the rapidly warming climate is tilting the odds. It's kind of loading the dice in favor of more extremes on the temperature end and on the precipitation end. Again, check out that special from a couple weeks ago on wfmj.com/weather for more. One of the things we've been talking about in terms of weather and climate lately is what's been going on in Alaska. An unprecedented, remarkable heat wave continues in the state of Alaska. Now, these are the 7 o'clock temperatures in some of our local places, local airports. Comparable to Central Alaska this evening, 86 in Bettles right now, Fairbanks at 85, Anchorage at 71 degrees. All of this is just remarkable for Alaska, and records have just been smashed recently. All right, back here at home, we've had a pretty warm stretch. We've now had 17 days in a row of 80-plus high temperatures. That included today, 88 this afternoon, our warmest day since Saturday. We've now had 4 days in the upper 80s and lower 90s over the last week, and boy, we're going to see more days like this coming up, that is for sure. I talked about this last evening. It'll be a nice evening with a mostly clear sky to check out Saturn after sunset this evening. It is at what we call opposition tonight. This is the exact day in which Saturn is closest to the Earth. It's at opposition, which means Earth is between the Sun and Saturn, which makes the planet appear extra bright. That includes the rings around Saturn. Now, you can't see the rings with the naked eye, but if you have a telescope, it'd be a real great evening to go outside with that telescope and check out the rings of Saturn. Saturn, pretty easy to find near Jupiter. Jupiter's real easy to find, other than the moon. Jupiter's the brightest thing in our evening sky. And you go down and to the left, you're going to find Saturn. And again, if you have a telescope, take advantage of this opportunity with fair weather and warm temperatures to get outside and take a look. All right, across the country this evening, we have a severe weather threat up across the High Plains, Black Hills of South Dakota, and then some rain extending up towards the U.S.-Canadian border. Our national weather story, actually, though, is going to focus on the tropics over the next few days. We have an area of low pressure that is scooting across the panhandle of Florida right now. This thing is kind of dumbbelling south, and as it gets over the bathwater, over the northern Gulf of Mexico, conditions are going to be favorable for it to develop into a tropical system. Warm water, light winds aloft, lack of wind shear means this thing could very well develop into kind of a homegrown tropical system. Our computer models here, the agreement is looking a little bit tighter now, that this thing will drift west and then probably come ashore somewhere in far eastern Texas or more likely in Louisiana. Now, does this stay a tropical depression? It's not even a tropical depression yet. It probably will become one. Does it stay a depression? Does it become a tropical storm or even a low-end hurricane? All those possibilities are on the table right now. The hardest thing about tropical forecasting is intensity. We've gotten pretty good, and the models have gotten pretty good at forecasting the track of tropical systems, but we really struggle. It's one of those kind of last white whales, if you will, of meteorology, is nailing the intensity forecasts of tropical systems. It's just something we're not very good at yet. Certainly better than we were 30 and 40 years ago, but still not very good. So there's low confidence in the intensity of this thing. Whether it's a tropical depression, a tropical storm, a low-end hurricane, no matter what it is, it's going to bring a lot of rain to a lot of places, and flooding will be the number one concern along the Gulf Coast. But if it ramps up enough, there'll be a wind concern as well. The European model shows this thing ramping up maybe into a low-end hurricane and then coming ashore in Louisiana by the upcoming weekend. So if you have friends and relatives down near the Gulf Coast, that's something we'll be keeping an eye on. Again, the rain is the big concern down there. Whether it's a tropical depression or all the way to a low-end hurricane, it's going to bring a lot of rain to a lot of places near the Gulf Coast. All right, Eastern Ohio, Western PA tomorrow. It's going to be a real steam bath. We did 88 today. I think we'll do 90 or 91 in most places tomorrow. Now, a renegade shower or storm can meander around a few spots tomorrow afternoon, but more places will be dry than will be wet tomorrow. The opposite is true on Thursday. More places will be wet than dry on Thursday, especially from lunchtime into the afternoon. Showers and storms will line up along a fairly weak cold front, as cold fronts tend to be at this time of the year. And then behind that front, a mixed bag of clouds and sun. And actually, pretty nice day on Friday with temperatures not far from 80. All right, no concerns with flash flooding tomorrow. Low-end concern with flash flooding on Thursday. Due to the atmospheric moisture and the fact that these things will not exactly be racing along, I don't think this is a big-ticket flooding day, but you know how it goes around here. We've seen a lot of instances lately where it just wants to rain, and it wants to rain hard, so we're going to have to watch out for that low-end chance of some localized flooding on Thursday. There's also a low-end chance of severe weather on Thursday, and aside from the flooding risk, when we're talking severe weather, it's hail and more so damaging winds. That could be a concern on Thursday with our cold front. All right, longer range. Boy, it looks hot next week. The pattern as we go into next week will feature a big ridge from the Rockies and Southwest on east, and this is the kind of pattern that will produce a lot of 90s and maybe even some 100s along the eastern seaboard next week. Now, there's one caveat here. That tropical system that comes ashore this weekend, if this thing kind of meanders north and kind of gets stuck somewhere across the Ohio Valley, that will trim the heat. That will prevent it from getting as hot as it could. Won't prevent the humidity, but it could prevent us from getting too hot. That's going to be a possibility, but if that were not to occur, there's no reason why we won't see a handful of 90s next week. Just a reminder, we've not hit 92, we've not been above, I should say, 92 degrees officially at the Youngstown Warren Airport in 7 years. It's been since 2012. We've hit 92 a bunch of times. We just can't get past that 92. Yeah, I think we'll have a chance of at least lower 90s for a handful of days next week. All right, thanks for sticking with me tonight on a long edition of Weather for Weather Geeks. I'll see you back here, same time, same place on Wednesday.